Hi, my name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help people build intentional, significant legacies for themselves and for their families by coaching them in real estate. Now, a big part of that is just making sure you stay updated on what is going on in your local real estate markets. Today, we're going to be giving you your monthly update for what is going on in Eagle River. We're going to break out of the mold a little bit for what we normally do. Typically, we just do the monthly update for this time last year and kind of compare that. This time, we're actually going to be going back a little further and looking at how Eagle River is doing year to date. So this is going to be for the entire year up to this point compared to the previous years during this time. So we're going to have some great information that's going to be very useful for you as you're trying to make your real estate decisions. But before we get started, make sure that you do give this video a like, make sure that you subscribe, and if you have any questions, make sure you post those in the comment section down below. Now, without further ado, let's jump into it. As always, the first thing that we're going to look at is the total number of active homes that are on the market. Now, this market in Eagle River is not going to be quite as big as what you'd have maybe in Anchorage or the Mat-Su Valley. It's going to be a little bit smaller. So with that being the case, we're going to take a look at some of these numbers and just keep in mind some of the drastic things you're going to see right behind me. Keep in mind it kind of has to do with the size of the market, but still pretty significant because as you can see over here, there is just less inventory overall for what is going on in Eagle River. This time period, we're actually seeing there's about 101 homes that were on the market. So that's doing pretty good. And obviously you can see kind of all the way across here, the entire year, that we actually do have less homes that are on the market than usual. So that's the first big thing there. Second thing that we want to check out is the number of properties that sold during these time periods that we're looking at, really kind of the year to date up to this point. Anything in yellow back there is going to be the year 2020. Over here, obviously, as you can see, we have a lot of properties that are getting sold here in Eagle River. That is significantly higher than what we had during the previous years. Now, keep in mind though, like I said, this is going to be kind of a matter of scalability. Over here, there was roughly about 58 homes that sold in the month of October, because that's the most accurate total information that we have so far. Whereas the previous year in October, it was roughly around 36 homes that sold during that time period. So that's just to give you an idea kind of on the scale that we're talking about here. That's still really good though. We're seeing a lot of properties are selling here in Eagle River. The third thing that we want to look at that I know everyone is always going to be asking is what is going on with the average sold price. I don't really like looking at the sold price. To be honest, if we're looking at sample sizes about the size of Eagle River. And the reason for that is we already said the sample size here in Eagle River is going to be smaller. So if you have a number of large properties that sell all of a sudden, then that's going to kind of throw the overall numbers off here. And sometimes it can really inflate it. For instance, the average here for Eagle River at the moment is going to be roughly about $372,000, roughly thereabouts. That's obviously going to be up from where we were the year before. So not doing bad. I'd say that's right in keeping with what we would expect. Looking over here though, what we see is that there was a significant increase year over year for the average sold price. I believe it was back in August, if I recall correctly. And the average sold price was roughly about $445,000 during that time period. Now, what that has more to do with is it's obviously going to be the time of year. It's right at the end of summer. So a lot of folks that are trying to get their property sold are trying to get it done during that time. And typically that's going to be when people are trying to sell the more expensive properties. So you're going to see that number just shoot through the roof right there during that month. So that kind of explains that, at least that little anomaly right there. So I wouldn't say that we've got pretty high right over here and then just dropping over here. That's not really what I'm seeing. It has more to do with the people that are trying to sell different priced homes at different times of the year is kind of what I'm seeing from that. But the trend is going up for homes in Eagle River, and that's very understandable with the inventory being down and the total number of properties being sold going up simultaneously. Good indication. Now the next thing I want to show you, kind of related to the average sold price, is the year-to-date sold price. This to me is going to be a lot better of an indicator how we're doing than just looking at the month-to-month necessarily. Because like we said, we can have an anomaly that just shoots way up and it's going to throw the numbers off, but this is going to be the average year-to-date. And at this point, we've got about 10 months worth of data to go back and look at for the year-to-date, for the previous years as well. Now looking over here, what we're seeing is the average sold price is going to be roughly around $391,000, thereabouts, just rounding up to the nearest thousand. And that is obviously going to be up from what we're seeing during the previous years. As a matter of fact, just looking at the percentages over here, what we're seeing is that the percentage is up by 2.58%. And what we're seeing over here is it has increased over the years, but 2.58 is more of a drastic increase from what we've seen before. So even accounting for kind of those months where things just kind of take off and we might have an anomaly, we're still seeing an increase for the average sold price in Eagle River across the entire year. Now the next thing I want to look at is some data really about the 30,000 foot view, but stuff that I believe is actually pretty revealing for what's going on here in Eagle River. Keep in mind, this is going to be year to date up to this time. Now, first thing that I'm going to look at is going to be this information right over here. Now, what it's showing us is that the total number of properties is sold during this time period actually increased by 20.63%. So that's not just properties going on in the market. We know that's gone down. The total number of properties that have sold in Eagle River so far for the year has increased by roughly 21% over the course of the 10 months. So that's pretty significant and really speaks to a healthy market. Just kind of re-emphasizing that over here, average days on the market has actually gone down significantly, going from about 51 days on the market to 43 days on the market. Now this means that it was on the market, it pended, and that's when the clock stops. So it means that on average, properties will be on the market in Eagle River for about 43 days. That might seem like a long time, but keep in mind that's all the property averages put in together. So you might have the mansion that takes 200 days to get sold, and you've got the property that's priced correctly and has done everything they need to do that sells within a couple of hours. It's all kind of lumped together. So the fact that you see about you see that big of a swing in the days on the market, it's actually pretty significant. You usually don't see that big of a change. So 30,000 foot view stuff does speak to a healthy market. We'll talk more about it in the summary. Has this been useful for you so far? If it has, you know what to do. Give this video a like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure that you post down in the comments section if you have any questions about specific areas in Eagle River that you would like to see covered in more detail. Without further ado, let's go and finish today's video. Now, the next thing we're going to be covering are the multi-unit properties here in Eagle River. This is going to be an even smaller sample size than what we saw with the residential properties, but we're going to cover it anyway though, because I believe it kind of shows us more of what's going on in the market and when it's taken in conjunction with what's going on in the residential side. So first off, let's take a look at the total number of active listings for multi-unit properties that are on the market at the same time. Over here, we're seeing it is obviously severely dipped, at least looking at the, obviously anything in gold is going to be for 2020, and this is going down quite a bit for just the total number of active properties we have on the market. At the moment, in October, it says that there were 8 listings that were on the market that were multi-unit properties. In 2019, that number was 14. So not a whole lot of shifting there as far as total number, or the overall total number of properties going on the market. I can speak, but for the size of the market that we're in, that's pretty significant, because the lower the inventory is, you guys know, especially as investors, that value is expected to go up. So that's first off. Not as many active properties on the market as we've kind of seen in the past. So that's number one. The next thing that we need to look at is the average sold price. Now, if you are highly analytical, you're going to take a look at this graph over here and wonder what in the world happened. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. We have lots of missing pieces of data all over this graph. And what it shows is the average sold price actually is down. It's really hard to really see any trends though, just because it's so patchy just looking at the history leading up to this. So it's really hard to nail down an exact trend. But what we do see is the average sold price has gone down. This is kind of tough to interpret, at least from a multi-unit perspective, just because, in residential, it's obviously accounting for everything on every price range. And the same thing goes for multifamilies, and it also incorporates all the different sized units. So that's something we got to take into consideration as well. But there you go. Average sold price, roughly about $325,000 at the moment in October. So let's go ahead and go talk a little bit about how we're doing year to date though. Now let's look at the average sold price for the year to date of what we're seeing here in Eagle River for multi-unit properties. This is going to look pretty abysmal just kind of looking at it here. Because keep in mind, this is going to be roughly about $402,000. I'm sorry, $402,000 is going to be kind of the average year to date here in Eagle River. Whereas even last year, the sales price we were looking at was going to be roughly about $453,000. So you're probably thinking, what changed? It dropped by roughly around 11% for the previous year. So keep in mind, smaller sample size, and the changes are going to be a lot more drastic in it because of that reason, just because it's going to be a lot smaller. But I believe that this does kind of show us a bit of a trend though. So we'll talk about that more in the summary and some of the theories that I have, but let's go and finish today's video and we'll get right to the summary. Now, just the same thing that we did with the residential properties, we want to take a 30,000 foot view here at the end, just to kind of get a feel for how we're doing. Now, looking over here, keep in mind, smaller sample size, I'm aware of that, but looking over here, what we're seeing is there's roughly about a 63% increase in the number of properties that actually sold year to date in this market for multi-unit properties. So that's doing pretty good. Now keep in mind, I said that the average sold price actually has gone down, and that sounds pretty scary, especially if you're an investor. But let's take a look over here. The average list to sales ratio, in other words, how much you put the property on the market for and how much you actually got back for the sale of that property, actually increased. It's at about a little over 99% of what we're seeing, and last year was around 97%. So that's a pretty good increase for the list to sales ratio. I'll go and talk more about the significance of that in just a little bit, but also what we're seeing is there's a decrease in the days on market over here. Because this time last year, year to date, it was about 62 days on market. Now we're looking at 55. So even though the sales price is going down, we're also seeing that the that the days on market has gone down as well. And so yeah, let's go and break this down in the summary then. We are seeing for both commercial, I don't think so, for both residential and multi-unit families that the inventory is down. We've discussed this in previous videos, but that inventory is down. That's going to mean the price is typically going to go up. We're seeing that on the residential side for sure. It kind of depends like month to month, but overall, once we kind of clump everything together and just get the year to date, we're seeing a pretty significant increase in the sales price. The days on the market, as we'd expect, has gone down as well. Now, really the big thing we need to interpret here is why in the world is the sales price on multi-unit families going down as the inventory has gone down as well? Because, if that rule holds true for residential, why isn't that happening with why in the world is that not happening also with the multi-unit families? Well, the reason for that is that the properties that are being sold in this market are not particularly high at the moment. And they're probably more like duplexes and triplexes more so than looking at fourplex or anything that might potentially be higher. So that's really the hypothesis I have, and my defense for that would be that even though the sale price has gone down, the list to sales ratio is actually increased by about 2%, meaning that what people are asking for, they're actually getting more of that back. So if we had properties that would bump that average all the way up to let's just say 460, 455, somewhere in there, they're just not going on the market right at the moment. It's a smaller sample, so having changes like that is going to impact it. So that is my theory, just kind of an overall summary of what's going on. So I sure hope this has been useful for you. If it has, make sure, again, you give this video a like, make sure that you subscribe so you and more people can kind of hear about this. Feel free to share it anywhere you can. And also, if you want to start looking for properties to purchase maybe here in Eagle River, make sure you check out my app that's going to be following right after this video. If you are looking at selling your property, I can't speak for the future. I don't have a crystal ball and know for sure what's going to happen, but what I do know is it's not likely to get much better than it is right now. So if that's something that you're wanting to do, reach out to me through my Facebook link, which is going to be down in the comments section, the description section down below. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. So thanks for watching, and see you next time. Downloading my app is pretty simple. You simply scroll to the description section of my videos, click on the link there. It's going to take you to my website. From there, scroll down, hit download app. It'll take you to a place where you enter in your phone number. Enter that in, click send link. It's going to text you a link to the App Store. And from there, you'll have to click on that, enter in your email address, and then it's going to register you to the app, and you'll be able to start modifying your search. You can modify number of bedrooms, bathrooms, property type. You have a lot of modifications you can do on there, or just draw a shape to it. From there, you'll have the ability to go and just browse through, create your own specific saved searches on there that's going to make sense for you. Go ahead and add notes just so it makes sense. And that's going to be kind of the basic search capabilities. There are a lot of extra bonuses and things to this that make it really beneficial, like walking you through the entire process as a buyer or seller and giving you all the details that's involved with each one of those steps. So never at any point are you going to be lost in the process. So we've kind of just scratched the surface here, but that's just to get you started.